Greed is a sin, a deadly sin. What is up, everybody? I hope you're having a really great Monday evening. I know that I am. I'm psyched. I'm psyched because we're talking about a very interesting spaghetti western this evening, Django il Bastardo, also known as Django the Bastard, also known as The Stranger's Gun Down. Now, let's see. All right. There's the DVD edition that came out, I don't know, I think maybe like 15 years ago or something. There are, of course, really great Blu-ray rips out now. You can also watch the movie for free on Tubi. I always try to pick a movie that's not behind a paywall, so that way, if you hear me talking about the movie and you think to yourself, damn, I need to check that shit out, guess what? Link is below in the description. You can click on it, watch the movie for free. Unedited, with commercials, but not so many that it's going to annoy you and make you want to turn the damn thing off. Anyway, I figured really quick before we get into the movie, I'll talk about our sponsor, which is, surprise, my own book, Six Gun Guerrilla, Long Days of Vengeance. You can check that out on Indiegogo. Campaign is chugging along right now for issues 9 and 10 and the volume 2 trade paperback. Now, if you're new to the world of Six Gun Guerrilla and you're thinking, well, damn, what happened to issues 1 through 8? Well, guess what? You can get all of those on this campaign. And also, if you're just curious and you want to kick the tires and see if this is like your kind of a comic book, guess what? You can click right here and download a free digital PDF copy of the first issue, the entire first issue, free of charge. I have the utmost confidence in my product. Everybody loves this book. Everybody gets a kick out of it. That's not me being braggadocious. That's just how it turned out. I made this comic for myself to entertain myself, and it just happened to be a hit with people. And with critics, Joe Lansdale gave me a lot of love. The great Mike Barron called it majestic. What can I say? like, once again, that's not me being braggadocious. That's me being very, very grateful that people have enjoyed it as much as they have. And I believe that link is also down below in the description. Okay, enough with the shilling. Because we got to talk about Django il Bastardo. Okay, this is a really interesting one. This is... I wanted to cover this movie in particular because I wanted to cover one of the Gothic spaghettis. That is to say, there are subgenres in the spaghetti western subgenre, right? Just like there are subgenres in everything else, like horror, you've got slashers and splatter movies and so on and so forth. This is one of the pictures that came out during the spaghetti western boom that's really directed like a horror film. It's directed by Sergio Garone. It's written by Garone and the star of the film, Anthony Stefan. We're going to get into him because he gets a lot of hate. Unfairly, unjustly, I maintain. Let's see. There's The Stranger's Gun Down. That's an alternate title for this. Some of the other Gothic spaghettis, or the horror spaghettis, if you want to call them that, are Django Kill, If You Live, Shoot. Here's the Blue Underground DVD of that. It's so wonderful. It's a great time to be a horror fan. It's a great time to be a spaghetti western fan. It's a great time to be a cult movie fan because, holy crap, you can get access to everything. You don't have to order VHS tapes that are rips of Japanese laser discs with like the hard-coded Japanese subtitles. That's what we used to have to do. That's how I first saw Django. That's how I first saw Sartana. A lot of those films, because these were movies that really weren't played on television when I was a kid. Did they play here in the United States? Yeah, I'm assuming, but definitely not into any kind of a wide release. Maybe they made it to a couple of drive-ins or something, But Django Bastardo is a really good example of the genre, I think. I was tempted to do either Django Kill or And God Said to Cain. And God Said to Cain with Klaus Kinski, I actually think is probably the better film. But I don't think necessarily it's a good place to start with the horror spaghettis. I think really this is the place to start with the horror spaghettis. It's a lot of fun. It's very accessible. And if you've ever seen High Plains Drifter with Clint Eastwood, guess what? This is the inspiration for that film, almost certainly. And one of the things that's interesting about that is that really Anthony Stefan, aka or his real name, Anthony DeTefe, believed that he was born in Brazil, but he was like a baron, or his father was a baron. And I believe was like a diplomat or something. And then the family moved to Italy, and he started a career in film acting. He was in some pretty big pictures, mostly peplums, sword and sandal movies, but also Sodom and Gomorrah by Robert Aldrich. That was one of his more high-profile gigs. He was in some of the Gothic horror films that the Italians were doing. One of the best, I think, is Una Angel por Satana, An Angel for Satan, with the lovely Barbara Steele, and one of her best performances. He's great in that. He gets a lot of grief for being wooden. And I think that that's not fair. I think that Richard Harrison, people say the same thing about him. Yeah. Richard Harrison is one of those dudes that when you see him on screen, you think to yourself, wait, what's that guy doing in a movie? Like, he belongs in like a hardware store or something. Who let that button out on the stage? Richard Harrison also was in a bunch of peplums and a bunch of spaghettis, and he's fine. He gets by, but he kind of came from like the Chuck Norris school of acting. The Chuck Norris School of Acting is where you basically take like a block of cedar and you just stare at it and, and learn how to imitate. Yeah, it's my way of saying he was wooden as fuck. But Stefan was an interesting guy. He was a polyglot. He spoke like 6 languages, maybe even more. That made it easy for him, of course, to work on international productions like this. This was shot in Spain. This is what you would consider, I think it's probably the best of the B spaghettis. That is to say, the spaghettis that are on the lower budget side, not so low that they're not even shot in Spain, but they're shot in Italy. But clearly there's not a big budget on this film. Not like one of the Leone films or the Trinity films or something like that. Not at all. The budget on this, you could tell, is pretty sparse, but boy, it does a lot with what it's got. Pops, what's up? See you in the chat. Where do we start with this? It is one of those pictures that really made an impact on pretty much anybody that's seen it. It's very, very unusual. It's spooky. It definitely has a strong horror vibe to it. Sergio Garone, not really a very distinguished director. He did one called I think his first spaghetti is If You Want to Live, Shoot. That's not an especially distinguished film, but this one really is. And it is very much worth investigating if you're interested in Italian Westerns, and also if you're into horror. You're probably going to get a kick out of this because this is a hybrid for sure. Let me show you the trailer really quick. Found a bunch of cool stuff on the interwebs. Some good screenshots and everything. There's a really good shot of our man. Now, those of you that are new to the Spaghetti Western, I should mention one of the reasons. I mean, if you're thinking, like, a friend of mine was like, well, what movie are you doing tonight? I'm like, Django the Bastard. It's like, oh, is that a sequel to Django? I'm like, no, it just has Django in the title. Because there were, like, after Django came out and was such a huge hit, they were retitling every Western that was in production at that time, Django whatever. Just to cash in or to confuse people, trick them into the theater, whatever. In this, the character's name does seem to be Django, but I can't believe that this was written as Django the Bastard. Maybe The Stranger's Gunned Down was the original title. I'm really not sure. I did look it up in these 2 tomes right here, which really are your go-to Bibles for the genre. It's Alex Cox's 10,000 Ways to Die. Highly, highly recommended. And also very highly recommended Any Gun Can Play by Kevin Grant. This is just, wow. If you want factoids, this has got, it's got everything in them. So nice binding on this too, because I can't tell you how many times I've left this open and it's not falling apart yet. So good book. Let's take a look at that trailer. It will give you an idea of the general vibe of Django Il Bastardo. I think this is the German trailer. I could be wrong. I think this is the German trailer that I swiped off of the Spaghetti Western database. Now, if you are interested in the genre and you haven't been to the Spaghetti Western database, what is wrong with you? Seriously, it is a resource that I wish that I had when I was younger and, very much into the genre, but it was difficult to really learn much about it. There was a newsletter called Westerns All Italiana, and that's the only one I could think of. I think that came out quarterly. That was like your best resource. Of course, now we have the internet and the Spaghetti Western movie database. I should really drop a link for that too. in the description. I'll try and do that next week, because they are the shit. They are passionate about Euro Westerns, and you know, they know their stuff. Okay, let me begin. Let me. No, okay. You're gonna have to cut me some slack here. I'm just boomering just a little bit. I'm an Xer, but I'm allowed to boomer. Just, you know, just a little. Let's take a look at this trailer. Django. And yeah, Django is in, as you can hear, in the theme song. So maybe this was written as Django Il Bastardo. Yeah, this is definitely the German trailer. Django und die Bande der Bluthunde. So it's Django and the Band of Bloodhounds. Yeah, that's a particularly good scene. We're gonna get into that. Django in this is kind of like, you know, a spooky figure, like Sartana, like Django when you first meet him in Corbucci's original film. But this takes the spookiness to another level, because there is a very strong possibility that he may not be mortal, that he actually may be a ghost. Oh yeah, it's a great scene where these fools, these cowboys, are playing chicken with a stick of lit dynamite. Ah, yes. We're gonna get into this guy too. This is Luciano Rossi as Hugh Murdoch, who is a really, man, he's fun to watch in this. Really kind of an underrated, underutilized actor, in my opinion. Oh, that's a great moment too. Yeah, where Django murders these killers that have been sent to get him by the Murdochs, and he sends their bodies riding in on horses, crucified.
Sie bekreuzigen sich vor ihm. Sie hassen ihn. Sie zittern vor ihm in höchster Todesnot.
Yes, this is the German trailer. I think that's a pretty good clue.
Vor ihm, dem gnadenlosen Rächer.
Rächer means revenge.
Allein gegen die zynischsten Aasgeier des Mittelwestens, allein gegen die Bande der brutalsten Killer schießt und schlägt sich Django den Weg frei. Den Weg zur Gerechtigkeit.
And yes, these films were very popular in Germany. They were popular in all of Europe. A lot of the spaghettis were, I would say, most probably, were German, Italian, Spanish co-productions.
Was willst du machen? Ich bin eben eine Frau.
And that was Rada Rasimov. We're going to be talking about her.
Guten Tag. Seit wann trinken Mörder Champagner?
So geht es allen Schweinen.
Yeah, if you like your revenge movies, your revenge westerns dark, this is definitely the one for you.
Und wie wird es Django ergehen? Allein gegen die Bande der Bluthunde.
Alone against a band of bloodthirsty bloodhounds.
Allein gegen eine Herde blutrünstiger Pistoleros.
Du bist längst tot! Verschwinde!
Now, the score to this is really pretty good. Now I forget who it's by, actually. Obviously, it's not by Morricone. They couldn't afford Morricone. But it's also not by Louis Bacalov or, God, I'm trying to remember the name of the other guy that was sort of like, the guy that you got when you couldn't get Morricone.
Heilige Mutter Gottes, nein, 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 nicht Django!
Jeder Schritt seines Lebens ist ein Schuss. Jeder Schuss seines Lebens bedeutet eine Leiche.
Yeah, the soundtrack to this is by... Let me see. Yeah, God, yeah, no, I can't. Honestly, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to cheat. I'm going to have to look that up on the Internet Movie Database. I really do try, honestly, to like work off the top of my head. But I'm getting on in years. And yeah, there's a lot of action in this. A lot of gunfighting. This is... I'm sorry. If you're bored watching this, you're hopeless. Oh yeah, it's a particularly great moment where Django is hanging around the group of killers that have been hired to take him out. And he's just hanging out with them as if he's one of them. And he's smoking a cigar and he throws it into the fire. And as he walks away...
Das ist der heißeste Django, den es je gab. Mit dem
This is the hottest Django yet.
kältesten Django, den es je geben wird.
Yeah, it's a pretty good trailer. I like that a lot. Let's see. Now, let's get into the movie itself. It is, as I said, written by Detefe, a.k.a. Anthony Stefan, and the director, Sergio Garrone. Garrone, not really a distinguished director. He didn't do anything really exceptional before or after this, but boy, this one's a keeper. This one's a keeper for sure. So, let's see. When the... wait, that just looks weird. Okay, that's a little bit better. So, when the picture opens up... Okay, well, yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. I always have to, take a look for DVD, VHS covers, movie posters. That's a pretty cool illustrated one right there. That's a pretty good modern one. And let's see, I believe this is the recent Blu-ray from Blue Underground. And it is definitely worth checking out. It's an absolutely beautiful print of this movie. I mean, the DVD version is perfectly fine too, but this is definitely the preferred way to watch Django il Bastardo. So in the opening credits, we get... a bunch of illustrations, paintings, even a couple of photographs of life in the Old West, specifically also the American Civil War. And the film opens on a puddle. Immediately, you start thinking mud, you start thinking Django, which, boy, had a lot of mud in it. And the camera starts following the stranger. These very interesting shots. When we first meet him, he's seen from overhead. Garrone likes to shoot the character framed, usually by something or shooting through something, so you feel like you're kind of like hiding and spying on the scene. You can see there, it's as if you're hiding in a barrel. And in a really wonderful moment, he throws his cloak open and boom, plants this cross in the ground. Sam Hawkins died November 13th, 1881. Guess what day it is? Yes, it's November 13th, 1881. And turns out that Mr. Hawkins is hanging out with a bunch of his buddies in this building in town. He's knocking back whiskey rather liberally. And one of his friends tells him, like, hey, you should slow down. But also, there's this guy out there, who looks pretty spooky, and he's got a cross literally with your name on it. And so he goes out with his boys, and the moment he makes eye contact with Django, he recognizes him. And so then, of course, Django blasts him and his friends. They draw first. He always makes sure that the bad guys draw first. You'll notice that in this picture. And so this fellow drops to his knees and dies looking at Django and, of course, his the cross with his name on it. Yeah. And Sam Hawkins ist tot. he is gone. Yeah, sorry for the German. That's yeah, I'm sorry. I speak some German, and like after watching the German trailer, I can't help it. So then we got these cowboys that are tossing around a stick of dynamite, playing chicken with it, and we got our first shot of the family, the Murdoch clan. And this is Rada Rassimov. Wow, really beautiful, stunning woman, had very sharp features. She was the sister of Ivan Rassimov, who is an actor who starred in a lot of spaghetti westerns. Most notably, Chimango was one. Chimango, a name, obviously, that's sounds a lot like Django, but at least it isn't Django. And she went on to have a very, very good career. I believe mostly in television. And so we get a look at her husband. And this is Luciano Rossi as Hugh Murdoch. And boy, he kind of steals this picture. He chews up the scenery in a way that is really just a lot of fun to watch. You would mostly see him kind of in small parts in Italian westerns. He had a little tiny part, I think, as one of the Mormons in My Name is Trinity. Or I'm sorry, They Call Me Trinity. And I think this is the only film in which he has a really prominent role. And boy, he just absolutely kills it. Yeah, we're gonna get into that. And this is Paolo Goslino, who as Rod Murdoch, who is the main villain in this, and high on Django's hit list. So as these cowboys are throwing the dynamite around, he's just like looking at the crowd and notices Django standing there. And then when he looks back, he's disappeared. And throughout this entire picture, this becomes a motif. This becomes a thing where he is very spooky, spectral, ghost-like. He often just appears in places where he shouldn't be. And just as quickly as he's appeared, he's disappeared. And so we're left with the question, is he a ghost or is he a man pretending to be a ghost? Yeah, he's the phantom gunslinger who has returned from the grave to avenge his own death. Once again, clearly this was the inspiration for Clint Eastwood's High Plains Drifter. Stefan was, in many respects, and I think this is why he got a bad reputation as an actor, he was the poor man's Clint Eastwood. He was not the guy that starred in A-list spaghetti westerns. He was like the B-list guy, or in even some cases the C-list guy. And so very often he's doing a Clint Eastwood imitation. He's often squinting. Well, he often makes his face. Sorry, I'm going to have to... Here. All I can do is imitate it. He's often just going... When you first meet him in a picture, he's always making that face. And... he had much better range, I think, than people give him credit for. I'm not saying he was a great actor, but he certainly wasn't a bad one, despite what some people say. So he goes to the carpenter and asks for a cross, and then he tells him who it's for, and the cross maker is just like, "Oh, I'll do that one for free." And so here we have this fellow who is in cahoots with the Murdochs, but he also owes the money, and so he's staying up late and he's doing the books. And you'll notice here that he is writing with a quill. Now, at that time, quills were very much out of fashion. They weren't reused very often. So that's a peculiar little touch. But it's one of the things that little details like that make this movie feel a lot like one of the Roger Corman Poe movies. And I think that's very deliberate. I think that this was absolutely influenced by the Corman Poe films. And so it's about 10 minutes to midnight, and he feels a presence, and he looks up, and boom, there's Django, staring him dead in the eye. And he's letting him know, like, "Hey, man, I've come for your ass. It's your time." And so he reaches for his gun, Derringer, that's in his desk drawer, and when he comes back up, boom, Django is gone. He has vamoosed. He has left the premises, practically disappearing in front of our eyes. And so this fellow goes to seek him out, and Django just keeps sort of taunting him, getting him to follow him. And where is he leading him? Well, of course, to the graveyard. What's a Gothic spaghetti western without a graveyard scene? You got to have at least one, right? And so he trips and falls, and he's looking into a grave, and as you can see from the marker, it's his grave. Ross Howard. And so he starts raging, basically saying, "This is bullshit." Like, "No, I don't want to die. It's unfair." So then, of course, he tries to blast Django. Django blasts him. Oh yeah, but before he blasts him, check this out. This is really interesting. This is a scene that you noticed probably in the trailer, where he's looking at Django, and suddenly Django appears to shift into doubles, and then like a double, and then there's like 4 versions of him. And it's a really kind of a hallucinatory moment, and you're not sure if this is happening in this guy's head or if this is actually happening. But either way, he tries to shoot one of the Djangos. Django blasts him, and homeboy falls right into his own grave. Then we cut to the Murdoch's house, and we have Rada Rasimov in bed. She played with Luciano Rossi, Hugh Murdoch in this. And Rada Rasimov's, or I'm probably butchering her name. I pronounce it rata. I don't know if I'm getting that right or not. No disrespect meant, obviously, if I am getting it wrong. And she plays Althea, and she is one of the more proactive women that you'll find in a spaghetti western. You don't really see a lot of women in spaghetti westerns, and I think that's largely. Well, first of all, you have to remember, first of all, there weren't a lot of women in the Old West. They were rare. And, if you were a guy, and you were either the number of honest women to prostitutes was like 10 to 1, which is to say, either your sex life involved prostitutes or you didn't have a sex life, Unless you're a cowboy out on the trail, bareback mounting it, which, was a thing for sure. So it turns out that she's been paid by Yu's brother, Rod Murdoch, to marry him, and he's clearly insane. And she's like, "Hey, you still haven't paid me for marrying your brother. I would like to get paid for that now." She is strictly out for the ducats. Clearly very cynical, money driven, but not necessarily happy with her life and being married to and sharing a bed with a psychopath. And we're going to see exactly how crazy he is, because when he loses it in this, those scenes are really, really priceless. Let me go to another clip here. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at that opening scene that I described, because it really is really remarkable. I mean, this is just what can I say? I think that this is a really terrific film. That dripping water, you see the puddle makes you think of Django, but also that dripping water can't help but remind you of Mario Bava's Black Sabbath and the Drop of Water episode. And you'll see here what I was talking about, the rather odd perspectives, the rather odd way that Garone has of shooting the character when he first appears. And then, of course, we get like a POV shot. There's quite a few of those in this. Yeah, here he's framed through the spokes of a wheel. There's that barrel shot. Well, actually, that's through a well. There's the barrel. And so, yeah, this is the money shot right here. By the way, my apologies for having to stop the video every 11 seconds or so. I have to do that, or YouTube yanks the stream off the air, which I'm sure will happen at some point. But I don't care.
What the devil? Hey, Hawkins, wake up! Wake up! Come and see this.
Yeah, Hawkins is a bit of a sloppy drunk. Likes his tipple, clearly.
That man's out to get you. Something important. Maybe he'll tell you.
Something important? Yeah, there's just a guy out there dressed in black, looking spooky as fuck, with a cross with your name on it, and the date of your death, which just happens to be, like, today. Like I said, the music in this is really quite good for a non-Louis Bacalov, non-Morricone, non-Bruno Nicolai. That's the other guy whose name I was forgetting. Sometimes Morricone would actually write scores, because Morricone was so busy scoring spaghetti westerns that a lot of them he didn't have time to actually conduct the orchestras himself. He would have to pass that on. He would just write the score, and then Louis Bacalov or Bruno Nicolai, who were excellent composers in their own right, would then actually record the music.
Looking for me?
You Sam Hawkins?
Yeah, sure. What about it?
Yeah, there's that face I was telling you about. And so one of the classic tropes of the spaghetti western is, of course, the flashback. That was a trend that started in, I'm pretty sure it was first done in For a Few Dollars More. Sergio Leone's sequel, of course, to Fistful of Dollars. Prequel, actually, to Fistful of Dollars. And it became a trademark of Leone. He ended up using the flashback. Usually you would just get a quick flash of the flashback. You wouldn't get the whole flashback. You would get an image or two. And it would increase the mystery. And you were wondering, well, what happened here? But the one thing that is always there in the spaghetti western flashback is that it is the hero remembering his trauma, whatever it was that fucked him up, whatever it was that sent him on the vengeance trail.
It's you I was looking for.
What a way to go. Great stuff. I was watching this again last night in preparation for this stream, and what can I say? This is one of those movies that every time I watch it, I just have a really good time with it. I think it's really exceptional. It's just very, very entertaining stuff. I'm not going to get into the plot too much. Naturally, the Murdochs hire a bunch of killers to get Django. They fail. This is a really good scene, actually, where a bunch of them try to bushwhack him. And one guy misses him with a machete, and then another guy comes at him and ends up impaling himself on said machete, and his body's just kind of hanging out there. And he finds Rada Rasimov has been tied up. It looks like Murdoch, pretty much, rather than pay her, has decided to throw her to the wolves, meaning this gang of killers. And she's immediately taken with him. He's immediately taken with her. Obviously, a very beautiful woman. Also, just a very intriguing attitude, shall we say. Like I said, in spaghetti westerns, not that many great parts for women. I mentioned the scarcity of women in the Old West, but that's really not a factor. I don't think, because the Spaghetti West is its own world, and it has nothing to do with the actual Old West. You know, like in Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, they're fighting the Civil War in Texas, which never happened. But, you know, you can always forgive these movies for those inaccuracies, if you want to call them that, because they're so surreal and so clearly not set in the real world. So I mentioned Paolo goes, Luciano Rossi as Hugh Murdoch. And he's just having a little fun dragging some dude to death. And completely psychotic. I wouldn't be surprised if this part was written for Klaus Kinski. Certainly his performance in this, Rossi's performance in this, is very Kinski-like. That is to say, intense. So the townsfolk or the sheriff are just like, dude, this, you know, you're letting the Murdochs get away literally with murder. I mean, they're just, you know, they're literally this guy is literally killing people in the streets. You got to do something, right? You know, we'll back you up. So Hugh is getting his drink on when he's confronted by the town, right? And they're all right, giving him this look like, yeah, that's right. Time for you to get yours. And this guy's like, and what you gonna do? And so he just kills the sheriff. He kills the sheriff, and then he starts just shooting into the crowd and starts screaming at them, fools, 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 and starts laughing maniacally. A really, really great, unhinged performance. Spaghetti Western villains are always the best when they're a little crazy, especially when they're sadistic. And Hugh is nothing if not a sadist. And he's prone to these fits. And so there's like 5 guys trying to hold him down in a chair. And he's struggling. He won't simmer down. And so Althea comes over and places a hand on his forehead, and finally he chills out. It reminds me of that line, you know, it takes 5 men to hold a man down, or 1 woman. So the Murdochs hire more killers. And here's a great shot of Django, Stefan coming through a cloud of dust. And so, yeah, they're he's dumping them in ditches. Every guy that's thrown at him, he kills in various shootouts. And then finally, once Rod Murdoch sees that he's coming for him today or tonight, he drives all of the people in the town out of the town. And so there's this great scene where you see this mass exodus of people leaving the town because they're literally being thrown out of their homes and their businesses. And so there's nobody in town now but these hired killers and Murdoch's boys. And so there's this great moment where one of Murdoch's boys is standing on the sidewalk when he sees this coming his way. Yeah, it's a bunch of guys that were sent to kill Django, crucified on horseback. And the horses are just slowly walking through the town. And it's a very, very, very clear, very potent, very, very effective message. Finally, we do get the full flashback. That is to say, we find out exactly what it is that Django in this is so pissed off about. Why does he have such a hard-on for these men that he's killing? He stumbles across a bottle of whiskey, and he remembers. He remembers when he was fighting in the Civil War for the Confederates. The spaghetti westerns are the only movies that I could think of, besides maybe something like The Outlaw Josie Wales, where the hero is a former Confederate soldier. Now, obviously, that's not something that you could conceivably do today, but they would do that back in the day when, in war, sometimes soldiers are just soldiers. And they're, sometimes they're fighting for their team or their home, however misguided sometimes that may be. And so his best friend, we see that Django was in the army. They're bivouacked, and his best friend has found a bottle of whiskey. And so they're like, yeah, party time. And then they have a better idea, like, hey, let's give it to the officers, right? Out of respect, and also maybe to ingratiate themselves a little bit, for sure, with the officers. But when they go to the officers' tent, it is completely vacant. The three officers, who of course are the three guys that Django has come to kill, have vamoosed. They have disappeared, and he's wondering, well, where have they gone? Why? And it's because they've been sold out. They've been sold out. The Union Army comes in and just wipes everybody out. The first guy that gets shot is Django's best friend. Then, of course, we see him getting shot and killed, ? Once again, it's not clear whether he's human or a ghost. And, oh yeah, this is a great little moment here where Radorasimov is looking for Django and comes across him. A lantern. It's a great Gothic horror lighting. She is on it. Interesting thing about this is that the only people in this movie that Django seems vulnerable to are Althea, maybe because she's a woman, and you, because he's insane. Everybody else seems to be absolutely powerless against him. And, oh yeah, this is a really great moment here. You saw this in the trailer where a bunch of Murdoch's boys, they open fire on what they think is Django on horseback, and what looks like a body drops into the water trough, and they see that it's a dummy. And as they're looking into the water at their own reflections, suddenly Django's face appears, very ghost-like. And naturally, as they turn around to draw their guns, he blasts them, bucks them down. Here's the scene I was telling you about before. That's in the trailer where he blows these fools to kingdom come. And then finally, he gets caught. He gets bushwhacked by you. You has decided that he is going to, because they locked him in his room, right? Because they don't want him to fuck this up. This guy's coming to kill Rod. Rod's like, I don't want my crazy brother, causing any trouble now. So they lock him in his room, but then he knocks the guard out and steals into the street with a gun. And he's like the guy that actually captures Django, if only briefly. And he takes his gun, and Django starts sweet talking him, telling him, like, everybody else thinks you're stupid, right? Everybody else thinks you're crazy, but I know that you're the smart one. You're the only one that I'm actually afraid of. And uses that as an opportunity to throw his poncho over Yu's head, and he ends up actually winging Django. And we see some of his blood on the wall in that alley, and so he starts going berserk in a very happy way. showing everybody, this is his blood. This is his blood. He's human. He's not a ghost. A lot of people, it's really interesting because I remember when I first watched this film, I thought, oh, okay, so this means that Django isn't a ghost. He's just a regular guy who's been pretending to be a ghost to spook the bad guys, the people that he's after, as a form of psychological warfare, a very effective form of psychological warfare. Having watched this movie recently, last night, looking at it now, I'm not so sure. What could be the case here is that he is a ghost. He is back from the dead. At one point, a character asks him, who are you? And he says, a devil from hell. And it could be that he does, that he is a revenant of some kind, but that you is his kryptonite. And that you is his kryptonite because he's crazy. And I think that's a really intriguing idea. And then there's a really great moment where you drops a noose around Django's neck in the church. And first of all, I love church scenes in Gothic horror movies. And what's a Gothic Western without a church scene? And so you is up in the rafters, and he's got a noose around Django's neck, and he's pulling him up into the air. And this is just a really great, intense, very, very suspenseful scene. I don't think I really want to give the rest of this film and the ending away. It is definitely worth seeing. It is definitely worth a look if you are interested in Italian Westerns and also exploring the Gothic spaghetti subgenre. And as I was saying before, there are a lot of subgenres within the spaghetti Western. You've got the circus spaghettis. You've got the late spaghettis, the Twilight spaghettis as they're called. Then, of course, you have the comedies like the Trinity films. The Western has always been a remarkably malleable genre that can be used in many interesting ways. Now, let's take a little look at that flashback sequence.
Then they're traitors. But why? Why? We'd better warn the other men. Evans! Evans!
Yeah, so this is the either this is Django's death or he survived this attack. I'll leave that up to you because originally I thought for sure that he was that he was definitely a human pretending to be a ghost, but I think it's more ambiguous. I think that this is kind of more like the turn of the screw, where, you're left wondering, are the ghosts real or are they a product of the governess's fevered imagination? And the real answer to that is, if you're asking that question, you're not understanding the story. That you're not necessarily supposed to know, and I think this is one of those, as opposed to something like High Plains Drifter, where he was definitely a ghost.
Any survivors? Lieutenant Hawkins, there won't be any survivors.
Yes, so these are the guys that he's after. And then, of course, he ends up killing a lot of people because a lot of people get between him and them. Yeah, Yeah, this is a scene where Django has been wounded by you and is hiding out. Definitely a really great suspenseful section of the film. This is pretty slick right here. This is look, I know Stefan gets a lot of fucking hate. I know, he. But I'm sorry. I think he's really, really great in this. Goringo, that's another spaghetti western that he's in that I think he's very good in. As long as he's not doing a Clint Eastwood impression, I think he's terrific. Certainly in this, he's very, very good. So yeah, that's Django il Bastardo, people. Go check it out. Link is below in the description, like I said. And let me see. What am I going to do next week? If you have any suggestions, you can drop them in the comments below. And let's see. Yeah, I mean, these movies are more accessible than they've ever been. And like I said, I found there's a ton of them on Tubi right now. You can also check out some of the other sites like Plex. You can also actually find a pretty good rip of this, not of the Blu-ray, but of the DVD on YouTube. So Django il Bastardo, people, go check it out. It is more than worth your time. And with that, I think I'm going to peace out. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to the Spaghetti Western Jamboree. And I will hopefully see you next week. Peace.